If you're a young man in the military, you face additional pressures to get married more so than men outside of the military, especially if you're an enlisted man. I served in the military for 8 years with 2 tours in Iraq. I've seen people die, but I've seen far more men destroyed by women than by bullets. So the first thing you need to understand is how the military financially incentivizes marriage for enlisted men by forcing them to live in the barracks with multiple roommates and endure weekly inspections until they reach the rank of E4. Once you make E4, you're allowed to live out in town, but you'd have to get several roommates together in order to afford the rent of a small apartment simply to get out of the barracks. It's not just the inspections, which when I was in were conducted on Saturday mornings, means that you only got to sleep in on Sunday, assuming you weren't on duty. The other thing is that when your unit needed warm bodies to do anything, they would simply empty out the barracks and force everyone to work for free, regardless of the day or time. It didn't matter if it was Saturday, it didn't matter if you just got off a 12-hour shift. If you lived in the barracks and the sidewalks needed to be shoveled after a snowstorm or something like that, you were going to be made to do it. However, the men living out in town were free as long as nobody answered their phone. All the guys I knew would never answer their phone after hours or on weekends from anyone other than their friends and family. Thank God for caller ID. Here's where the marriage pressure comes in. If an enlisted man gets married, even if he's E1 and fresh out of boot camp, he's not only allowed to live out in town with his wife, but he's given additional money to pay for housing known as BAH, or Basic Housing Allowance. BAH is based mostly on the zip code and not the person's rank. It's measured to be the amount that will pay for the rent of a functional accommodation for the area. And it's often more than the actual person's paycheck, especially if they're low-ranking enough to be otherwise forced to live in the barracks. It's also tax-free. So BAH easily doubles and may even triple the disposable income of the person if they're stationed somewhere like Hawaii. These incentives lead many men to marry women they barely know and who they would never otherwise consider marrying, in order to get the BAH money and the other benefits. They don't realize the long-term consequences of their choices because many of them are teenagers or in their early 20s, and instead of going to college, they join the military directly after high school. The concept of having a woman enslave you for 20 years with child support and alimony never even enters their mind. According to the CDC, the general divorce rate for the year 2011 was 3.6 per 1,000 people, while in the military the overall divorce rate for 2011 was 4.1 per 1,000 people. Marriage statistics aren't tracked for the military the same way they are for civilians, but 56.6% of military members, both men and women, are married, compared to 49.8% of the general population. So through the power of math, here are the numbers. For the general population, 49.8% are married. Thus, out of 1,000 people, 498 are married. With a divorce rate of 3.6 per 1,000 people, we have 3.6 out of 498, or 7.2% in 1 year. Since the CDC also records marriage rates at 6.8 per 1,000 for the general population, the divorce ratio equals 52.9, or 53 to be simple. Thus we have a 53% divorce rate compared to the number of marriages, and a 7.2 divorce rate per year. For the military, 56.6% are married. Thus out of 1,000 people, 566 are married. With a divorce rate of 4.1 per 1,000 people, we have 4.1 out of 566, or 7.2% divorce rate per year. We can't calculate the actual divorce ratio since marriage statistics aren't recorded, but based on the identical annual divorce rate to the general population, it can be reasonably concluded that the overall divorce rate would be about 53%, the same as the general population. So the problem isn't that the military destroys families, but that the military encourages people to get married at a rate of 13.65% higher than the general population through the use of additional pay and benefits. Some women deliberately target military men because they have high job security, predictable pay, health benefits, and the man is gone so much that they can do whatever they want while spending the man's money. Infidelity is also about twice as common in the military as outside the military, according to a study by the American Sociological Association. According to the study, 16.8% of non-military respondents admitted to cheating on their spouse, while 32% of those in the military did. A University of Chicago study backs up the general population statistics, showing that between 15% and 18% of people cheat on their spouses. This study didn't ask about military status, but it confirms the previous study's figures regarding the general population, which means that the 32% figure is reasonable as well. So men in the military, especially any of you young guys in the lower enlisted ranks, I know how much the barracks suck. I know how little you get paid. When you hear about these guys the same rank as you getting married and doubling or tripling their income depending on the location, I understand how tempting it is to rationalize why marriage might be a good idea. You think you're getting to get all this extra money, but the only one going to get the money is the woman. You'll be stuck paying child support, alimony, and she may even get half your retirement income down the road once you retire, even if you've been divorced for decades. 53% divorce rate, and an adultery rate of 32%, twice that of the general population. It's not worth the little extra money and the ability to sleep in on Saturdays.